I'd like to call to order the meeting of March 17th. Order, please. Brett, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Amy, roll call.
Keith Gifford.
Here.
Gavin Colley.
Here.
Roland Quiroz.
Here.
Mitch Daniel.
Here.
Red Roach.
Here.
Scott Barrier.
Here.
Ryan Mortz.
Here.
McNeely Rome.
Here.
Lonnie Bates.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, approval. I need approval of the minutes of the meeting of February the 10th. Moved by Brian, second by Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, on the President's report, just want to remind everybody about our ALBL workshop. May 1st and 2nd, we actually arrived there on the 30th. Everybody's given you the...
We have reservations, so it's the video canceled.
Okay, all right. Okay, moving on to Executive Committee report. Scott?
I appreciate that, Mr. President. So we met a couple of weeks ago with the Executive Committee and covered various topics that Mr. Mathern will review in the Executive report here shortly, and I suggest we approve the minutes.
Okay, with the recommendation of our chairman. Moved by Mac, second by Mitch. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, anyone here from the audience to address the board? I think Mr. Terrio.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. I'm Robert Terrio, and I'm representing the Golden Meadow Rotary. I've owned them for quite a while now, and they have a homecoming festival on March the 22nd, which is a week this Saturday. I'm sorry, this coming Saturday, actually. And we invite you, of course, to come and enjoy yourselves. It's a fried fish, all you can eat. We also invite you, if you care to, put together a cooking team. If you feel you have a good recipe that you'd like to try and compete against others. We also have craft booths and a job fair. So if any of you are hiring people and like a spot, feel free to get one. I'm going to leave the forms up here. While I'm here, I'd like to also invite you to join a Rotary or any other organization where we engage with the public. We help those that are in need. We do a lot of activities, including the two festivals here. And thank you for your time. And if there's any other questions, I'll be glad to answer. I'm going to leave the forms up here because I've got another meeting to go to, and I'm going to use this activity for them also. So,
Okay. And that's at the Golden Meadow Park?
Like Golden Meadow Park, that's correct. And it's get there as early as you can to the general festival. You start around 10 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Robert?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Executive Director report, Nick.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. First thing I wanted to report, that's not on the agenda, but wanted to update the public that maybe didn't see it on our Facebook page. We did, on February 26th, have the formal dedication of the College Pump Station. We dedicated Pump Station number 1 behind Oak Ridge Park in Golden Meadow to honor Mr. Ronald Colley, our former board member who passed away last year. He served us over 4 decades, so it was quite a monumental achievement for him and for our whole community. We had several of his family members that were in attendance for the unveiling of that sign, and it's highly visible on the side of the road on your way to the Golden Meadow Boat Launch behind Oak Ridge Park. So I just wanted to update the public on that. The next is the Mississippi Valley Flood Control Association fly-in. So last week, Mr. Guidry, our board president, and I traveled to DC for this event. We partnered with Dwayne Bourgeois and Corey Keith from the North Lafourche Levee District and Angela Hidalgo from the Terrebonne Levee District, along with Mitch Marmon, the Morganza to the Gulf Program Manager from Delta Coast Consultants. We met with staff from House Majority Leader and our Congressman, Steve Scalise, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson from Louisiana's 4th Congressional District that covers the Shreveport area in northwest Louisiana. We also met with staff from Congresswoman Julia Letlow's office. She's from the 5th Congressional District, that's Monroe, Alexandria, Bogalusa area. We also met with staff from Congressman Clay Higgins' office. He's in the 3rd District, which now covers North Lafourche Parish, Terrebonne Parish, and the southern part of the state all the way to the Texas line. Also with Cleo Fields from the 6th District, that's Garrett Graves' redrawn district, which includes parts of Baton Rouge and Lafayette, all the way up to Shreveport. We also met with staff from Senator Cassidy and Senator Kennedy's office, as well as staff from the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works and the House Natural Resources Committee. So the biggest topic with the House staff, Senate staff, and the 2 committee staff members were dealt with the National Environmental Policy Act. So we were removed from the Corps' Rehabilitation and Inspection Program back in 2011 because the Corps had questions about our design, which normally gets reviewed during the Section 408 permit process. But we didn't get Section 408 permits for much of our work since Hurricane Katrina. That Section 408 permitting process is where the Corps evaluates whether what you are permitting will potentially damage a federal project like our levee alignment. Part of that review includes compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, that we call it for short. North Lafourche Levee District and Terrebonne Levee District are experiencing similar issues that we are in our permitting process when it comes to the NEPA alignment, the NEPA process, as they're permitting new reaches of Morganza to the Gulf. Our alignments have already been congressionally authorized. Our environmental impact statements have been completed. In our case, the wetland impacts for our entire levee system, where we directly impacted, and the wetlands that were inside of our levee system that were indirectly impacted, all that has already been mitigated. And now any wetlands that are inside of our levee system should not be considered what's called jurisdictional wetlands for the Corps, meaning the Corps doesn't have the jurisdiction and authority to permit and regulate what happens to those wetlands, because if we're going to use the definition that the Supreme Court defined in the Sackett versus the EPA case, the wetlands inside of our system don't have a continuous surface connection with congressionally defined waters of the United States. So we're outside of the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers. We've already checked all the environmental boxes through the NEPA process, but we're still being required to fully comply with NEPA regulations as part of the 408 process. So in order to comply with all this, it's going to cost us money to hire firms to do this research. This is, Endangered Species Act. This is cultural resource under the National Historic Preservation Act. And then to show that the wetlands inside are not jurisdictional wetlands to the Corps. All that takes time, it takes money, and so it delays our projects. So not only do we have the cost of those reports, but we also have the cost that, but between the time we apply for the permit and the 18 to 24 months or beyond, but until we get the permit, the construction cost of that project from day one, by the time we get the permit, has now increased 3, 5, 10% or more because of inflation and rising costs. And so we explained all these issues to all the staffers that we met with. We had full support from everyone that we met with, and we were asked for the 3 levee districts to propose some changes to the NEPA requirements and to send some bullet points that they can get together and formulate into potential law language changes for us in the next, in the coming weeks and months. So we'll be working together as a 3 levee district to draft that and send that over, and then we'll then submit those to first the House Natural Resource Committee and the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, because they work with both parties of the House and the Senate to figure out language that can get easily passed. Because, as we saw last week, you can pass things in the House all day because you need a simple majority. When it gets to the Senate, to invoke cloture and prevent a filibuster, you have to have those 60 votes. So we're dealing with, in matters of the EPA and environment, not blanket, but generally, that's something that is going to be more protected on the Democratic side. And so for the Republicans to be able to push forward with that, they're going to have to convince 7 Democrats or those 2 independents to join their side to invoke cloture and prevent a filibuster and force the vote. So we need to make sure that we're going to have something that can have bipartisan support. And like we explained to them, we're not anti-environment. You know, we're in coastal Louisiana. We heavily depend on our environment for the seafood industry and for our culture. So we're not looking to just erase all this. We're looking to just say, look, we've already checked these boxes. Why are we having to check them again? Just let us do our job and move forward. So, like I said, we got a lot of support on both sides. We met with Congressman Cleo Field's staff, and they were supportive of what we were looking to do, largely because we're also pushing for a more streamlined and efficient government program. So nobody's against having a more cost-efficient government. So that's the summary of those legislative meetings. But we were also able to schedule a meeting last Tuesday with FEMA on a couple of issues that we had. So we met at FEMA headquarters. The first issue that we tackled dealt with repair work from Hurricane Ida. So we repaired damages after Hurricane Ida to the D-South flood wall, to the Lee Ontario Lock, the Ted Gisclair floodgate, and the main office building. Now the main office building was able to be handled fine under the General Public Assistance Fund. And the repairs are done, but FEMA has not reimbursed us the 90% on the flood wall repairs, the lock repairs, or the floodgate repairs. And so that totals around $1.5 million that they still owe us. We believe they still owe us. We also submitted the repairs that Compo and Sons did to the flood side of Section C South, because removing the debris caused damage to the flood side toe. So we had Compo and Sons last year go and put another 2 feet of dirt to reestablish that toe of the levee that was damaged during those operations. So we submitted all that too. But we've been getting pushback because in the public assistance program guidance that FEMA puts out and adheres to when determining how these reimbursements are going to work, there's one line that FEMA has been hinging on to not pay us this money, and it's that FEMA will not pay for repairs for any system or project that is under the authority of another federal agency, such as, and it specifically lists, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers flood control projects, which we would fall under. But our pushback has been that because since 2011 we're not in the Corps' rehabilitation and inspection program, the Corps of Engineers does not have the authority to spend money on us. We would normally be under their jurisdiction, but because we're not in the RIP, they have no mechanism to be able to spend money on our project. And so that's why we've gone to FEMA Public Assistance. So in that room, we had the head of the public assistance program for all of FEMA. And so we were able to lay this out to him, our whole story, how our levee district was created and we built our system, how after Katrina we got no money from the federal government, so we decided to tax ourselves and move forward. And since Katrina, we've spent over $150 million of state and local money with very little help from the Corps of Engineers, just the flood wall project in La Rose that they helped with, that's about it. And so in doing that, when Hurricane Ida came, we estimate 5 feet higher in our levee elevations than we would have been had we followed all the letter of the law. So us spending $150 million potentially saved the federal government $3 billion according to their own estimates. Because if we have 5 feet lower in levee heights, we had water up to and even overtopping our levee. So that would have been 5 feet of water inside the Southwest levee system. And that's, everything is damaged in that case. So the billions of dollars we saved the federal government and FEMA specifically, and we're fighting over $1.5 million. And so, the public assistance program division head was sitting next to me, and we laid all this out, and especially when President Guidry pointed out that we also have a little place called Port Fourchon at the southern end of our parish. And the only way to get there is through our system. And so if you can't get through our system, you can't get to Port Fourchon. And we also had Neil McMillan, who's the Director of Federal Affairs for the Louisiana Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or Energy and Natural Resources. And he pointed out that the port did an economic impact study not too long ago where it shows that every day that the port is shut down, that's a $500 million impact to the national economy. And so us doing our work has saved not only the billions of dollars in damage repairs from Hurricane Ida, but also how many days would our system have been inundated and you wouldn't have been able to get to Port Fourchon. And every day, again, $500 million hit to the national economy. And so when they realized all that we had done, all that our system takes into account, the head of the public assistance program admitted that they realized they have a lot of gaps in their policy. And when you're trying to run a program policy for an entire nation, you're not going to be able to think of every possible scenario that you're going to deal with. So he says that over the years, as they've found these gaps, they've been trying to address them and update them. And that's why they're on version 5 of the program guidance right now. So he said this definitely sounds like it could be another one of those policy gaps. So he had his senior policy advisor in the room too. So he got to hear everything that we were saying. And they committed to giving us a response within 45 days of whether our system would not fall under that one little line that they were pushing through. So by April 25th, not that anybody's counting, they owe us a response, right? So hopefully by the May board meeting, we'll have an answer and be able to update you guys on that. So really, I mean, those meetings went about as well as we could have hoped and expected with FEMA. I was very much appreciative of the intergovernmental affairs person that I had to deal with, because we explained the situation, all the problems that we're facing, and she got the absolute exact right people in the room to address those issues. Because the other issue that I brought up was the fact that, we've been talking about with all these 408 issues, would it maybe be in our best interest to ask Congress to deauthorize us as a federal system? Because then we don't have to get these Section 408 permits and we can just go build what we want to build when we want to build it. But one of the 5 billion questions that we need to answer before we actually decide that may be our best course of action is whether or not doing that would negatively impact flood insurance rates inside of the system. And I've tried for the better part of 2 years since I've been here to get an answer to that question. Nobody I've spoken to at FEMA not only can answer that, but even knows who would have been able to answer that. But in this meeting, we had the lead attorney, the head general counsel for the National Flood Insurance Program in the meeting. And I asked that question, would our flood insurance rates be negatively affected? And immediately she just said no. So I said, are you kidding me? In 2 years I've been trying to find this answer and it's as simple as that. She said, well, I've been here the whole time. So that's one of our 5 billion questions answered, that being deauthorized would not negatively impact our flood insurance rates. So if we don't get cooperation with the Corps, we don't get any kind of traction on NEPA law changes, that still may be a route that we want to pursue in the next couple of years. So, any questions on those meetings? But all right, next it was I was on HTV's Going Public segment on February 25th. To the community on construction progress around the system, getting ready for hurricane season, and some of the issues that we've been facing with permitting that I just kind of outlined to you guys. I'll be back on Going Public. We do quarterly updates on Going Public. Myself, Dwayne Bourgeois of North Lafourche, and Angela in Terrebonne, we rotate around every quarter. So I'll be going back on April 22nd to discuss more updates. In a similar note, I've scheduled a recurring monthly segment with Truck Disclair on the Talk on the Bayou program. So I'll be going the first Tuesday of every month. And we'll try to remember to update on Facebook when I'll be on so the community knows to listen in and call in with any questions that they might have. So that'll be the first Tuesday of every month starting on April 1st. And that's not a joke. You're welcome. That's your dad joke for the day. That was for you, Monty. Next is the gate closure exercise. So every spring our field staff deploys our 3 road gates to test for any problems ahead of hurricane season. So that's the road barrier that we deploy on Highway 32, 35, the 4-lane highway, the back road. We start in the morning at 9:30 with that closure. That gives time for school traffic and work traffic to kind of dwindle down so we're not impeding anybody's commutes. And then once that system is deployed and then taken down again, we move to the Delta Farm Road Gate, and which hardly takes any time at all. And then we allow the lunch traffic to subside, and then at 1:30 in the afternoon is when we start the closure on LA1 at the Lee, Ontario lock. I mean, we have these times 9:30 to 11:30 in La Rose, and then 1:30 to 2:30 in Golden Meadow. They really only take, La Rose only takes maybe about an hour to totally put up and take back down. The road gate in Golden Meadow takes more, about 30 minutes, but just in case we have any issues that take longer, we want to make sure the public knows to plan for, 2 hours out in La Rose and 1 hour out in Golden Meadow. We always open before that, but we want people to be able to plan accordingly. And of course, any of our board members that are interested in coming out to see that, you're welcome to come and attend. So that's Wednesday, April 2nd. And then last is the proposed FY26 budget. You should all have a copy of that in your packets. We don't need any official action today. We'll be officially adopting the budget at a future meeting, but wanted to give the opportunity for you guys to look at those and bring up any issues you might have now. But other than that, that'll complete my report, Mr. President.
Okay, any questions for Nick? All right, moving on, engineering report, anyone from CPRA here? Corps of Engineers. Project Engineers, Bissio and Associate, Joe.
Okay, on the La Rose Lock project, all the plans and specifications are 95% complete. We have all of our permits together. We are working with the parish right now on trying to get some FEMA funding, so they've asked for us to do a hydraulic study. We're working on that. We've had several meetings to discuss hydraulic modeling and conditions for doing the modeling. We're having another meeting tomorrow, hopefully to finalize all of our hydraulic modeling conditions to review, and then pass that on for a benefit cost analysis, which the parish's consultant is preparing, and then we'll go on for final approval, hopefully, of the funding. On Section E North levee improvements, Construction Site Specialties is the contractor. He's been out of, not working on digging in the pits and hauling for the last couple of months, mostly because of the weather. So now that the weather started to break, we did make contact with him last week and kind of put him on notice of like, look, we'll be looking for you to come back on site. He did say he's developing a plan to get out there soon, and hopefully we'll have a date from him when he's gonna be back in. We have Campo and Sons out there right now, working from the south to the north. In the next month or so, he's probably going to run out of material that's stockpiled for him to work on the crown of the levee. So it's important that Construction Site Specialties gets back out there and starts hauling, at least to stay in front of Campo, his operation of placing material on top of the levee. So we have one pay app this month for this. It's from Campo and Sons LLC. It's pay application number 5 in the amount of $58,695 even, and we do recommend you approve that.
All right, you've heard the recommendation from engineer to pay Compo and Sons, pay application number 5, amount of $58,695. Moved by Gavin, second by Mitch. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
A East levee improvements, our plans and specs are complete. We have approval from CPRA. As Nick said, we're going through the 408 process with the Corps to permit this section of levee. We've submitted our geotechnical engineering information to them. We submitted our plans and specs, and we're also undergoing this environmental review. We are told that they do have some comments on our geotechnical calculations, and they're going to give that to us soon. They asked for us to apply for a formal permit through the state, which I did last week. So we should, if everything goes right, we should get just a letter of no objection from the state, because the project's already permitted, we're located in a fast lane, we're not getting outside of our right-of-way. All of those good things should make it easy, okay? Knock on wood.
Sure.
Right, so same thing goes for the Corps. We shouldn't be in their jurisdiction because we're staying inside the right-of-way, but we'll see how that goes too. So we are undergoing all of those reviews, and Nick is on top of it as well as myself. We're giving them all the information as fast as we can. On the emergency gate closure at the LaRose floodgate, TLP Construction Company LLC is the contractor. We gave him a notice to proceed early in January. He did order the winches. We asked for an update as to where they're at, but we still probably 4 to 6 weeks away from getting the winches on this project. So we had told him that once he gets the winches in, we'll give him 30 days to put them in place, and then we'll have everything ready. Our 2025 centerline survey, everything's complete. We completed all the field work. We completed all the plans. We send all that to Nick. We've sent all of our survey data to CPRA. We have to send that to the Corps? We do. Okay, so I need to finalize our survey report, send that to the Corps, and we'll be done. And a corner plate repair at the Lee, Ontario floodgate. We created a set of plans. The boat owner that did the damage requests that he do the repairs. So we sent him the plans, spoke to him on the phone. He's fabricated the plate. He's ordering epoxy material, and then we've been talking to him. We've talked to him since I talked to you, Keith. And so he's going to come back to us when he has everything ready to get started. Okay?
Idea of when?
Hopefully within the next 2 weeks. All right, thank you.
Anything else for Joe? Thank you, Joe. Moving on, GIS engineering, giving it.
Good afternoon, Kevin Desarm with GIS Engineering. We'll start off with the A East by Lafourche Water Retention Project. So this project, we provided our alternative analysis and renderings and plans that we're proposing to your staff, and I believe that we're coordinating with the current landowners to try and negotiate that. So once we hear back from them, we'll move forward hopefully on the new alignment. Okay, that's all I have on that one. On the D North ramp lift, so this was awarded to Onshore Materials. They have mobilized equipment out there. They performed their pre-construction surveys and their layout and stuff like that, and they should be getting started, I believe, this week, working some of the material, getting it dried out, getting it processed. So construction is ramping up, but I'm done. I felt hot on my face on that one. On the Breton Canal Weir project, so this is a pre-construction picture right here, and I think we should have, this is a post-construction, so all the structural work is done. We went out there, did a final walkthrough with the contractor about a week and a half ago. We noticed just some minor grading of the site and the spoil stockpile area that they needed to do. So they coordinated with one of the local contractors and got them to bring a dozer, and I think everything is smoothed out now. So we're trying to schedule something this week, go out there, and we'll probably recommend final acceptance next meeting of this project.
Of the whole project completely?
Yep. I do have a pay app for that one, for garden environments, for $90,278.74. And we have reviewed that and do recommend that.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation of our engineer to pay Garden Environmental. Pay application number 6, amount of $90,278.74. Moved by Brett, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
And then the last project we have is the D-South flood wall at the Crawfish Farms, the Phase 3 improvements. So all the sheet pile and steel structural improvements are done, and Sea Level is currently working on the earthenwork and prepping for the concrete pavers. So they should be pouring concrete later this week, and then they are very much ahead of schedule. So they should be done in a couple weeks. We did get a pay app from Sea Level for $223,076.63. We have reviewed and do recommend that.
Okay, you've heard recommendation of our engineer to pay Sea Level Construction. Pay application number 3, the amount of $223,076.63. Moved by Max, second by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we did have a couple of proposals from GIS that we were supposed to get on the agenda. If y'all would consider deviating from the agenda and adding unanimously 2 other items to consider. So this would not be a roll call vote to pass them. This would just be to discuss and consider them first.
Okay.
So we would need a roll call vote to deviate.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation of our general manager to add to the agenda. Moved by Scott, second by Monty. All in favor? Oh, roll call.
Keith Goodrich,
Yes.
Gavin Colley,
Yes.
Roland Kiro,
Yes.
Mitch Daniels,
Yes.
Brett DeRoche,
Yes.
Scott Terrio,
Yes.
Brian Marks,
Yes.
McNeely Rowe,
Yes.
Monty Baker.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, so the first contract would be an updated general engineering contract. So this is the ongoing contract that has a not to exceed limit with GIS engineering. We've gotten to that limit of the previous contract. So Kevin, if you can give us details.
Yeah, so I talked with Nick, and rather than amending the current contract, which is, I believe, 4 to 5 years old at this point, we've done multiple amendments to it. We felt it was cleaner just to stop that one and come to y'all with a new and improved contract for the general engineering services. That way we can include all the FEMA language and anything in there, so any future work that we might need to coordinate during emergencies, those would all be reimbursable, or at least it would be ready to be reimbursable and not to do anything. And this will be for any just general engineering services throughout the year.
And what's the new not to exceed limit?
So this is time and materials not to exceed $60,000 is what we're recommending.
So the recommendation for you guys would be that you approve the general engineering contract with GIS for the not to exceed amount of $60,000 pending legal approval. We did send this to our attorneys, but he's out sick today. So pending legal approval and authorizing the president or the director to sign the agreements.
How long would you agree? That's a yearly thing or 5 years? I'm just asking how long.
We don't have a.
There's no,
have a-
I didn't understand that on finishing, but we just, yeah. Okay.
The other, it wasn't a time thing that finished,
Okay.
it was the value of the contract.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And I'm sorry, you said 50 or 60?
60.
60.
Yes, sir.
60.
Okay, so you've heard the recommendation of our general manager to proceed with that contract, the new contract. Moved by Matt, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, the second item would be on Raphael Project Road on the way to the D-South flood wall, but also pump station number 4. Some years ago, historically we had a timber bridge in place across the drainage canal back there. And some years ago, the district had replaced it with an old train car that we cut the top off of and put the base of the train car across the canal. The reason for that was that the old timber bridge had several pilings that were clogging up the flow of water as vegetation, a lot of water lilies would make their way down to pump station number 4, those pilings would just stop and clog up the whole drainage canal. And so the idea here was to have nothing in the canal and just have that train car base crossing. It's not load rated, it's not, I have a lot of concerns about future hurricanes. If anything would happen to that bridge, we can't get fuel to pump station number 4. And that's not okay for Golden Meadow. So I asked GIS Engineering to put a proposal together to design some kind of replacement for that bridge, likely a Waskey span, but we'll see what the best scenario is. So this, and Kevin can give details on the value of the contract, but this would be to have them design and come up with alternatives for what we could do there, whether it be replacing the bridge in place, that it could be out for a certain amount of time, or whether it be to put a temporary bridge in place, or put a new bridge in place and have the existing bridge just still operate temporarily. But they would coordinate with the landowners for us to make sure that their operation needs are all met. So Kevin, if you have details.
So this proposal is for a total of $50,840, 10,190 of that being surveying. So we would survey a few alternates. We went out and I had my engineering staff go meet with Nick, and they looked at some alternate paths for the bridge and some bypasses and some temporary construction and different options that we could do. With that being said, there was a lot of uncertainty, so my proposal is to do an initial alternative analysis on a time and materials basis. That way we can really narrow down on what we're going to do, what we're going to propose, and the best path forward before we get into a full-blown engineering contract. So that's what this is for.
And what's the number again?
So it's $40,650 for the alternative analysis, and then an additional $10,190 for the surveying and the boundary surveys and the topographic surveys of the channel and the existing bridge, coming to a total of $50,840.
So the recommendation for the board would be to approve that contract pending legal review and authorizing the president or the director to sign the agreements.
Okay, heard the recommendation of the general manager. Moved by Gavin, second by Monty. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
There you go. So now we need a roll call vote to return to the regular agenda.
Levee.
Steve Gifford,
Yes.
Gavin Pollock,
Yes.
Roland Huron,
Yes.
Dick Downs,
Yes.
Brett Lafourche,
Yes.
Scott Terrio, Brian Marks,
Yes.
McNeely Rowe,
Yes.
Lonnie Hicks.
Okay, motion passed.
So next is Angela.
Angelette Design. Neil?
Right, on the C North levee improvements, the contractor, Compo & Sons, has completed the reshaping to dress off a little segment of that levee, so that work is now complete. The next project is the C South flood side repairs. That contractor, again, is Compo & Sons. He's continuing to work on the berm, side slopes, and the crown section of that levee. We're recommending approval of his invoice number 1377 in the amount of $99,697.50.
Where's this at, Neil? See South there?
This is from Apache Forum to Bason.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to pay Compo & Sons. Invoice 1377, amount of $99,697.50. Moved by Scott, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, the next project is B North levee maintenance. This is south of Bason. That contractor, New Gym Construction, is working on the protected side berm for the levee section. We're recommending approval of their invoice number 1047 in the amount of $29,385.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to pay New Gym Construction. Invoice 1047, amount of $29,385. Moved by Brian, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And the last project is the Section F berm improvements. This project is complete. This is the project that Sea Level Construction had been working on over the past year to improve the protected side berm. We have received back the clear lien certificate from the clerk of court. So we're recommending two things today. The first one is the acceptance of that clear lien certificate.
Okay, you've heard a recommendation, engineer, to accept the clear lien certificate from Sea Level. Moved by Mike, second by Mitch. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, and the second item is recommendation of approval of their last pay app. It's pay app number 14 for the retainage on the project in the amount of $198,348.31.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our engineer to pay Sea Level Construction, pay application number 14, $198,348.31. Moved by Brad, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Any questions for Neil? Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Delta Coast, anything to report?
Kyle Pierce, Delta Coast Consultants, Program Management Report from Organza to the Gulf. Just briefly, we want to just let you guys know that we received the design report from the Corps for the floodgate out here on, they call it GIWW East, which is just east of where the Intracoastal and the Bayou Lafourche meet. We received that, reviewed it. We had a couple of engineers in-house at Delta Coast review it and commented back to them on it. And we anticipate receiving an alternatives analysis. What they had in their report was a barge gate. And I think they're going to go through and look at it, maybe doing a sector gate and a couple of different other alternatives, and price it all out and see what it would cost to build before they come up with a final design. So that's pretty much it.
So,
Go ahead.
Kyle, is it that close to Bayou Lafourche intersection, or further east?
Yeah, it's further east. It's closer to like where Mr. VJ's got his property.
Just east of the Tidewater Dock facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a 225-foot opening, and I think right now in the design report it's like the plus 17. So it's a significant structure.
Yeah, but it's
Before shore access.
Yes, I think it would be.
Before his dock.
west of Shore.
Yeah,
West of shore.
Yeah, west of Shore.
Gotcha.
I'd have to look at it on a map,
Yeah, yeah.
but I know it's definitely around Mr. Donald VJ's property.
Okay. That's all. Any questions for Kyle? Good, thank you, Kyle.
All right, guys, thank you.
Okay, all sides. Stephen Smith.
Oh, very quickly, there's only one thing on the agenda, it's for Reach K. Again, as I reported to you recently, Lafourche Parish is cobbling together some money to do another lift on Reach K. Just to refresh the board's memory, we've got the areas between Pointe-au-Champ and the first water control structure coming from the bottom up, that's up to 11. The middle section between the two water control structures, it varies in height. Some of it's at 11, but some of it's down closer to 8, if not a 7, with some settlement. Archie has been working with the state to dedicate some funding available at the state to lift that middle section, so it's all at 11. I talked to Archie today. He has talked to, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember, help me, Glenn Lede, total blank, my bad. Glenn Lede, who runs CPRA, about freeing up about $1.5 million to do that. That's expected to flow through the Terrebonne Levee District to get this work done. So the Terrebonne Levee District and the CPRA are working on a CEA to move that money. Okay, so that's in process. I would expect by the next time I give you guys a report next month that money will be in place, and then we'll get started on Reach K again. And that's it.
Any questions for Steve?
Only that I'm glad that Nick had to give that extremely complicated explanation about the interrelationship with FEMA. I didn't have to do that this time, so thank you for that, Nick.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. President, I wanted to pull up too for a second, because we have the technology, pulling up Google Earth so to talk about the location of that gate. So here we have La Rose. This is the Tejas Clare floodgate. This is the Intracoastal here. So this is the Schwest facility here. This is Tidewater Dock here. The gate would be to the northeast of all of this.
Are they still talking about it? Floodgate, pump station, where they might have to move it over?
Right, so
Still in the same location?
part of this analysis that they're doing right now is to figure out, you'll have the gate running here, somewhere around here, and then it'll tie into the North Lafourche Levee District here, and it'll tie into the South Lafourche Levee District, either with a wall between Tidewater Dock and Inbridge, or it'll go around the Inbridge facility and tie into our levee system here. If it goes around the Inbridge facility and ties in here, that encloses pump station number 7 and makes that useless.
Correct.
So part of that project would include the Corps of Engineers paying to move pump station number 7 a little further south.
Gotcha.
So we'd get a brand new station out of it. That's our newest station, so it's not that big of a win, but
Use the parts.
we could use the parts, correct. Absolutely correct.
And that's all still in design, like you said.
Preliminary, very preliminary.
Very. But it's
Just back of the napkin numbers, I can't imagine how you justify spending the amount of money it would cost to build a concrete wall only to exclude this facility that's expanding right now versus just building an earthen levee here. I mean, I can't see how that math would work. But this is the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, but it's the core. Yeah. That we can't tonight. Just so you could, just because you could.
All right, anything else, Nick?
That's it.
Okay, moving on, legal permits and right of way, anything, Nick?
Nope, not this one.
Board attorney is not here. Finance committee, Monty?
Hey, Mr. President, Finance Committee met and they reviewed invoices and decided to pay all bills that were presented.
Okay, you've heard recommendation of our chairman to pay our bills. Moved by Max, second by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Personnel committee. Gavin? Anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the Personnel Committee met and we discussed a few matters. One of them was a matter involving an employee that there was a correction needed to be made on compensation. We all agreed that that needed to be done. Second, we reviewed applications that we received regarding replacing grass cutter and a tractor operator. We reviewed those applications and we've decided on following up on the ones that require following up on. And then finally, we decided that we needed to add a amendment to our personnel and policies procedures regarding prohibited political activity. And after reviewing that and discussing that matter, we decided that it was necessary to do that. So
we would need board action and approval on the revision to the personnel policy procedures manual. So that this issue is state employees generally are prohibited from any kind of political activity, not publicly supporting a candidate, attending fundraisers, and we generally follow civil service guidelines on most of these kinds of issues, though we're not part of civil service. This was one that we recognized recently that we didn't specifically address in our manual, though our employees have been following this as though it were there in terms of what political activities prohibited by state employees. So this is just kind of a housekeeping thing, making sure that we officially have that in our manual. So if y'all would, I'd recommend the board approve including that.
We're kind of like FEMA, we have some gaps in our policy. So
Like
the
that.
recommendation about personnel chairman. Moved by Matt, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. President, do y'all need to fill this position before next meeting? Or you want to get the okay to hire him if y'all need to? Or?
Yes, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna set up interviews for hopefully later this week, and depending on the top candidates that we reviewed, if the board would approve us hiring those people.
Good catch, Monty. Okay, you've heard the recommendation. to allow our director to choose the applicant. Moved by Monty, second by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And I'll coordinate with the Personnel Committee before we actually make the offer, after we do interviews.
All right, any old business? Any old business? Any new business? No new business. Attorney's not here, no executive session, so I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Monty, second by Brian, that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Really? Before 4 o'clock?